I don't have to call it critical race theory to know what we're doing.
It's the game that we play.
They've got a plan, they've got a framework. Politicians really can't stop it.
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory. Critical race theory.
I'm Adam Gillette with Accuracy in Media, and this is part 3 of our investigation into critical race theory.
Welcome into the channel, everyone. It's Michael Tharp, EDU. It starts with you. Today, we're going to look at one of the most eye-opening videos that I've ever seen on the internet. And what this is basically Accuracy in Media went undercover into an Iowa school. Now, Iowa supposedly banned critical race theory or the teaching of it. And what we're going to learn from this video is that passing laws like that will not really work. The only way to combat this Marxist agenda is to actually get involved with the schools and what the curriculum are they teaching and what sources are they using. And we're going to get into that later. But basically, this, again, just shows that even when a state passes a law trying to ban this stuff, teachers are still going to try to put it into the curriculum. Because again, remember, this is about a worldview lens, viewing everything through race, through oppression, through dominance and control, and through Marxism. So let's get in and see what these teachers are doing.
Well, by now you've likely seen our critical race theory investigation in Idaho and in Tennessee. This new part contains some of the most shocking footage I've seen thus far. These administrators in Iowa are incredibly brazen and incredibly devoted to making sure that your children learn the racist Marxist tenets of critical race theory. Of course, they don't want to call it critical race theory. They don't even want to call it social and emotional learning anymore.
And again, this is huge, guys, because, again, like I told you, Greenville is planning on implementing social and emotional learning as mini schools. So what you're going to find out is they're probably going to try to do is say, oh, no, we're not doing that type of SEL. We're just doing the good parts, or, this doesn't have any of that stuff in it. But again, all they're doing is changing the language. Remember, this is a common Marxist tactic to confuse you with the words that they mean, because again, Marxists share your dictionary, but they don't share your definitions.
They've simply just changed the label and kept the same content in an effort to make sure that parents don't know what their children are learning.
We saw that in Iowa too, they banned what they call critical race theory.
House File 802.
Okay.
House File, and
has it done anything? Has it affected you guys?
No, it hasn't. It really hasn't affected us at all.
Why do they do that?
Have we had to shift our language?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the stupid state laws at least.
And again, shifting the language, okay, common Marxist tactic. We're gonna hear people say this over and over again. We just have to shift our language, but we're still teaching the same thing. We're still teaching the same worldview lens of critical race theory, Marxism.
At least as of yet, haven't messed with curriculum or changed anything?
It hasn't changed anything. One thing I'm really proud of with our social studies curriculum is we have, for K-5, we've just adopted Inquire Ed, which is has a foundation in social justice standards.
So we're going to get some good tips today for parents out there to understand what they're being taught. If they say anything about social justice, it is Marxism, pure and simple. If they try to tell you otherwise, it's very easy to refute them. I have a whole videos on this. And if they're dealing with Castle, it is critical theory, it is Marxism.
Nice.
Castle, so a lot of social emotional learning.
The bill isn't changing the curriculum or anything?
It does not change the curriculum at all. What I'm proud of when it comes to curriculum that we've been able to do is we've implemented what we call an equity tool, diversity, equity, and inclusion tool.
So if you hear those words, diversity, equity, and inclusion, understand they can say whatever they want, but it is critical theory Marxism if they are using those words. And I would say to challenge them, this is what I'm trying to get our board to see, is we need to be teaching equality that this country was founded on, not equity, which is Marxism, taking from one group or person and giving it to another.
That allows us to every sort of literature that we're bringing into the school now, even math, we're going through this tool. We're using this tool now, a curriculum development team, to really say, are folks represented in this? Who's being represented? Who's being left out of this? And really striving to make that more diverse.
So notice they're putting this in everything. Every single subject is going to have this garbage in it. And of course, he's misrepresenting what they're doing. It's not, you know, who's being included here and whatnot. It's much more devious than that. But again, this is what they're good at, is disguising, you know, what they really ultimately want to do.
Doing a curriculum review to make sure that we have like social emotional learning and diversity just infused in the day-to-day.
That's exactly.
Again, the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is infused in everything all day long because it's a world view lens.
Help inform everybody. So that's something we're doing.
802 has not stopped us from talking equity. 802 has not stopped us from talking about bias, both implicit and explicit bias. Hasn't stopped us.
Again, I used to teach about implicit and explicit bias. That's fine. The question is, and again, they always do this. They always try to make it seem like, oh, we don't want you guys to teach about this stuff. It's how you teach it. It's the worldview lens. Are you looking through a logical, rational, liberal lens? Or are you looking through a Marxist critical theory lens?
Talking about privilege and what it looks like and sounds like, feels like, and how
Good.
it show up in classrooms, and how our teachers need to be reflective in our own biases. I mean, we've done learning in all of our buildings surrounding that.
That's so good.
And we still got a lot more work to do.
So you can still discuss, like in social studies, systemic racism.
Absolutely.
All right. Can we teach that like systemic racism is inherent in capitalism?
Absolutely. We can say that because that's truth.
So again, it's funny this guy was just talking about implicit and explicit bias, and now he's stating things that are truth that are not truth. But again, he thinks it in his own mind, but apparently he doesn't even understand about how to teach his own self how to understand his own bias.
That's based in fact. We can research that.
What's in a label? Well, according to Iowa administrators, quite a bit.
I think we can do a lot of this work without the label and just.
How many videos have I showed you guys? If they talk about doing the work, that is Marxism. That is them creating new Marxists using critical theory. So always look out for that. If you see people saying all the time, we got to do the work, they might not even know they're a Marxist. They're probably just around people using that language, so then they start using it.
Just do the work, right? And so I think that for me, that I know that's also rubs some folks the wrong way, if you will. Feeling like I might not be pushing hard enough, or I may not be just saying the word. You know, again, I've been doing this for a while. I don't have to call it critical race theory to know what we're doing.
So he's basically saying, he's talking about the people on the left who are basically trying to say, well, we should just be saying this outright. And he's basically saying, no, listen, guys, we got to go underground, go undercover. We'll still get the mission done. We'll still get the work. We'll still get social justice change agents. But we're just going to do it on the sly underneath.
To know what kind of work that we're doing, you know, where we're moving the needle, and I don't have to do that.
Can't we just relabel this stuff and then they probably don't freak out?
So that's funny that you say that, because we have. You know, we had to go through and we had to take out words like privilege and right circumstance. You know, like it's just things like that. Like privilege makes someone mad, but what do you say circumstance? Like, oh yeah, I get it. I'm like, it's the same thing.
They're not the same thing. But again, what they're going to do is they're going to use that word circumstance, but still teach the same worldview lens to view it through. Privilege, the way it's taught in critical theory, is way different than a circumstance. A circumstance is just, I'm not going to get into defining it, but they're very different. But again, you see, they're just going to change the words and teach the same thing.
Like your circumstances change based on
Lord, okay.
these
But the
things.
parents don't freak out when they hear it's called circumstance.
Not at all.
Rather than calling it privilege, they simply call it circumstance. It's an endless game of whack-a-mole where we go after the things we don't want them teaching, and they simply change the label and continue teaching.
And this is why anyone on the right, any real liberal, needs to stop trying to ban and stop this stuff and start to actually write the curriculum to teach this. To teach how we should treat people equally on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. How we should be promoting logic and reason and critical thinking, not critical theory. And so that's the big key. The right always makes the mistake of trying to play catch up and just stop the left, and the left just keeps going. They just keep going no matter what. So I give them props and credit for that.
Do they still get to do like anti-racist stuff in
So we don't really use the term anti-racist
Dirty
right
word?
now. It's
So again, what's funny again is on the Second Step website that Greenville is supposedly using now, they talk about anti-racism. So again, what you're probably going to see in the future, I'm calling this, is a lot of these SEO programs will change the language but keep the same content. So again, if you haven't seen the last videos, anti-racism is racism. It's just they think it's good racism because of past racism and discrimination that took place. And in the future, we need to have more discrimination to make up for past discrimination.
Kind of, you know.
Dirty word.
What term do we
say-
use?
Well, we just talk about cultural acceptance.
I like
and
that.
just, you know, we're all people. So
Isn't it ridiculous?
So again, guys, this is why it's so hard to understand what our kids are being taught and what they should be taught. Obviously, I have no issue with accepting people from every culture. Like I don't know anyone that does, even though the left and the media try to paint the right as that. But again, there's nothing wrong with accepting cultures. But again, what's the worldview you're looking through? So don't worry about the words. Don't worry about the topic. Worry about the worldview and the lens they're viewing it through.
List that we have to change all of these terms.
it's you know, it's the game that we play.
Can you teach about systemic oppression and stuff like that and social justice?
Yes.
Good.
We can. We've been careful around the wording, just like you said, you know. We've had to move away from supremacy, things like that, or anything that says white, anything in it. But we still use the word oppression. We still use...
So we just relabel it and we can still do it?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's the game.
So I hope you guys were able to see the word games that these teachers are playing, and we're not going to let them continue to get away from this. I recorded this video in one take, but it's way too long, so this is going to be part 1 of exposing what these teachers are doing and how they're trying to indoctrinate your students against the law in Iowa. So make sure you guys like this video, comment down below, subscribe. I'm going to be releasing part 2 in just a few days, and I want to make sure that you guys don't miss it because it's even more mind-blowing and just unbelievable how brazen these teachers are breaking the law to indoctrinate your students in critical race theory and Marxism. So we see you guys in the next video.